how she gets played with certain teams. Let's head to the ban stage of our matchup and see where we're not going to play, and then, of course, where we are played. A quick refresher, as always. 2 maps are banned out, and then there's 5 remaining, where teams will ban 2 apiece, and then we're left with the 5th. I know you want Villa. I know you want Villa again.
I just want to see the new stuff. I want to, because we're seeing so many new intriguing things happening on the old maps as a result of the operator ban phase. Like we just witnessed SK with some great stuff, banning out Thermite yet again. But it's always cool to see new strategies evolve when teams don't really know what they're up to. You know, they don't know the details of the meta yet because it hasn't been forged. It's gone already, though. Evil Geniuses having none of that. They don't want to go to the unconventional map. And Clubhouse also being banned, so nor do Mouse. So last maps there are going to be Bank and Coastline.
They've got to ban Bank. If I'm Mouse, you know Evil Genius's stretch and history on that map in particular. You got to take care of Coastline. There you go. Bank is gone, so Coastline will be our matchup, which I know Evil Geniuses hate to play on. And I say this every single time you talk to either BC or Canadian, they will say the same thing. It is dreadfully hard to defend on Coastline. The attackers have an almost permanent advantage, and that seems to have been accelerated by the operator ban phase.
Yeah, and if you're wondering why they have such a permanent advantage, it's due to the giant hole in the middle of the map. That huge hole, that open area, the you know, the skylight, if you want to call it that, it effectively cuts off rotation on a good chunk of pretty much all of the top floor hallways.
About half of the map as well.
Really,
considering the bottom floor too.
If you were to take the whole map and you were to cut it down the middle, it is about half of the map overall. Well, maybe a third, but it's a lot. It's a big chunk of the map, and it's always attacker sided. So there's a lot to be said about that. But it's also that it pushes the sights up against the walls on the outside of the rest of the map. So it's a complicated map for defense to pull off, and I think usually when we see it work, it's due to crazy, weird plays or super aggressive plays from the defenses where they can usually get those defenses rolling.
And it's not very common to actually see teams put somebody up top and hold a hard angle. A lot of times, teams will actually completely vacate the roof, but if you're a defender and you don't have that information, are you going to take that chance? Are you going to gamble that somebody's not watching up there? Because I guarantee you, it's just like when teams put the Claymore over Oil Pit in Clubhouse. Nobody will rotate. Nobody will rotate into Garage on Clubhouse because they think that Claymore's there.
Yeah, at the top of the ladder.
But the one time the Claymore's not there and they go to rotate, you've now been able to take advantage of it. It's the same thing with Coastline, but the inverse, which is that you're not going to try to rotate when that skylight threat is looming over you, whether somebody's there or not.
Yeah, it is ever present. But there's a lot to be said about also just the executions. I mean, usually coming from the outside of the building, you know, as much as those that skylight is so scary. But let's take a look at the community vote. Who do you think is going to win this match? Just tell us.
50-50 last time around, the first time that we've actually seen a draw, and I'm a little surprised at this. Now, I understand that the Evil Geniuses fans are particularly passionate and in high numbers. I get that. But their performance this season has not quite been as much of a, you know, a home run as in previous seasons, and Mouse has looked really good.
Yeah, if there's a couple of teams that I would put at the top of the board in terms of adapting to the new meta, and most notably the operator ban phase, we're talking about SK, we're talking about Mouse. If there's teams that are seemingly struggling to do just that, Evil Genius is up there. You know, as much as they are one of the titans of this game, one of the most well-known squads out there, period, they still have a lot of work to do when it comes to the operator ban phase and implementing any sort of strategy there.
They crushed Obey in their very first matchup on Oregon. They struggled against Cloud9 and they lost to SK. So if anything, that triumphant start for Evil Geniuses has diminished as time has gone on. It's lessened. And now, as we load into the game and we head to Coastline for our second matchup of the day, you also got to realize the secret weapon here, which is that if you haven't followed along, previously, Canadian referred to two dudes, two fraggers, Hyper and Yaga, as the Brick Brain duo. They're his secret weapon, and half of them are in this game.
Yeah, so something that is going to have to be kept tabs on there. But the ban phase coming out, Mouse will ban out Glaz to begin. That's going to be a lot of pressure that can no longer be applied by the attacking side. First ban for the attack, though, for EG is going to be Ying, and that's typical. I feel like I haven't watched a match in a while with a Ying in it.
This is to me a particular no-brainer. Number one, Evil Geniuses are going to have the footage of Mouse playing against Rogue on this exact map, wherein most of the pushes from mousesports came with with Vandal tossing in all of his Candelas and the rest of the team just absolutely gobsmacking the defenders, playing in every single site. It was very rhythmic. It was great to see the way that Mouse executed, but it always played out very similarly. This is not just a counter to an operator who is frustrating to play against and potentially oppressive depending on the circumstances, but this is a direct counter to the way that Vandal plays too.
Yeah, if you put a Candela in just inside the door to Projector and you're attacking onto Penthouse, then all of the defenders in Projector are blind effectively. It's hard to avoid, honestly. All that said, though, here you have it, Glaz, Ying, Mira, Echo, and more of what we're used to, kind of your typical ban phase coming from these teams. Now, EG, you're going to be on attack, and Mouse will start on defense, and a Kitchen hold to boot as well. This is kind of interesting. So Kitchen is probably one of the more Mira-heavy sites. You know, you've got Penthouse as one of those as well, but Kitchen's I'd say number 2, and well, now that I'm thinking of it, I mean, you could even say the same word double bar, but Coastline in general, a Mira-heavy map, and Kitchen harder to defend without it.
It was Easley who actually said this during the qualifiers, that this map was almost designed with Mira in mind, which honestly makes sense because she released at the same time that this map did as well.
Yep.
And you really need her to help the defenders. Now, you've basically taken somebody who is already so good on every single map, but also particularly important here, and what they've done is they've removed her, and an already potentially lopsided matchup for the attackers has potentially gotten even more lopsided.
Absolutely. But it's all going to come down to how they set themselves up. And by they, I mean Mouse. Now, we talked about it earlier. A lot of what can give you a little bit more success on this map is, you know, extended aggression, pushing out of the site, trying to hold on as much as you can to the control, very little control you do have as a defender. Because every inch really matters when you're dealing with only a few inches as compared to some other maps. Now, lots of soft destruction expected from Mouse onto this delivery entrance. It's going to be just in an attempt to counter the quick plant that could potentially happen when the attackers inching their way in through the door. Not very likely, an easily countered strategy, but still there's potential for it for EG.
So, Evil Geniuses and mousesports will start things off. Kitchen is actually a site that, even though it's not... Okay, let's refer back to console for a second here. Kitchen is not unusual, but the interesting thing with Kitchen is the fact that it's really only seen such a rise in prominence over the last couple potential weeks. We saw it a little bit last season, but I mean, it's tough. It's not seeing as much play as it has this season, or it's not seen as much play as it has this season. Let me correct myself for a second here. I wonder how much of it is due to the meta, because a lot of times on Kitchen and on the bar downstairs, you'll want to run a Mira as well as a Castle. Neither of them are available for, or neither of them are on the board for mousesports. Of course, the Mira is unavailable. It's intriguing to see the way that Coastline has consistently shifted, because I think teams are scrambling to try to find the most defendable site.
Yeah, we always say on Coastline all of the sites are equally defendable, but they're all equally difficult to defend is kind of the story there. If you finish the sentence, it becomes an attacker-sided map that we talked about earlier. So figuring out where you're most comfortable as a team can take time. And as BC gets the very first kill, that's Hyper gone. Neptune's as well from Necrox, and it's a flurry of kills for EG as they attempt to get another, but Vertical will respond on MVK. Canadian will get Vertical. So it's a back and forth. Now, Vandal is downed. Beastly, the very last defender, and the finish off from Young using the nade may be overkill, but at this point it might not really matter, given that Beastly, being the final defender, is against 4.
And they don't have the diffuser, but that's okay. They've got a lot of time, which right now is a major luxury to that team. 1 minute for them to go fetch that diffuser, begin to put pressure on top of the final member of Mouse. They'll get pushed from the Buck from above. BC, who would typically play the Buck, is now being used by Canadian, and Necrox will cross through that delivery doorway, manage to punish Beastly. Great round overall from Evil Geniuses there, and a good start for them.
they completely collapsed on those roamers upstairs. There was almost no contention whatsoever. Mouse were trying their best to hold on to Penthouse Projector, but ultimately they just couldn't. As soon as EG confronted them, you know, stuck a barrel in their face, it was all over. And that's kind of the end of that round. There's not much more to say about it. Interesting the way that Mouse set themselves up, and I agree with the idea behind it. We don't have a Mira. We need to play this vertical, but the execution needs to be better.
Oh my. So, how is this going to work? EG bringing a completely different setup this time, and I completely agree with you here. One thing that we've seen about Mouse, we saw this in their Obey matchup. Obey 3-0'd Mouse, who stormed through the qualifiers and looked almost unbeatable. The only team that really gave Mouse a run for their money that I can recall right off the bat was SK Gaming. That they make it to the finals, and Obey absolutely obliterates them. 3-0. It was merciless. They cut right through them like a hot knife through butter. And Mouse just simply looked like they were lost a lot of the rounds. They didn't, it was very similar to what we just saw at a Space Station Gaming, is, you know, they didn't know, it didn't look like they know where they were coming from. The exact same thing just happened with Evil Geniuses, Michael. What happens is EG drops, and next thing you know, 3 members of Mouse are dead in seconds. They managed to answer one back, but then you've got poor Beastly all alone on the site as a Valkyrie with an MPX, trying to deal with the verticality of the buck above him, the possibility of still having EE1Ds and utility from the attackers, and they were crushed in the very first round. So how is mousesports going to be able to find that groove that got them into the winner's bracket final in the qualifiers?
10 seconds left.
Because right now, one round, not big enough, but not a good start.
And that's the danger of fully investing in your roamers. If you lose them, then it's pretty much over. And we've seen that before from a number of other teams, even from other squads. But Mouse setting themselves up now yet again on the same site. So no rotation here for Mouse. They've chosen not to go to a different site, instead trying to hammer out what they've got right in front of them. And I guess I can understand the idea there. You know, with Coastline, yeah, we talked about it. It's dynamic. But
that's not your drone.
It's someone else's.
That's not yours.
Oh man, actually NVK this time, by the way.
Yeah, that's not Nick's.
Are you sure? Wait, did
Not
they?
Nick's.
I thought they swapped.
It was a mid-round substitution.
Oh,
NVK came in, started playing for Nick's last time around, of course, but that's
my excuse is that my eyesight is failing me right now.
If only there was a device in real life that could make eyesight better. If only there were multiple devices.
I'm working on it, Parker. We're getting there.
This time around, look at where they have the Evil Eye cams of Hyper set up. Right. They've got them in the hallway. That's 90%. A lot of people call that Jaeger spot because you're used to seeing where Maestro's standing, a Jaeger potentially playing, using that carbine to possibly duel off people from both of those positions. But NVK last time around as the Zofia just got both those Evil Eyes for free. Just walked right in, took care of them, and it was a really bad setup for Mouse. At least, for the time being, half of the round has gone. You can hear the IQ doing some work in the background. Canadian has control of Penthouse. He'll go for a nade onto the Legion, but oh no, the Legion will run out. And right into the waiting arms of Necrox, who almost misses, but Amar will land the kill.
Well, the hammer and anvil strategy from EG really working out. Hyper's still in the hallway though, and he's able to be a thorn in the side of EG as they push forward. He will get Necrox, but no secondary kill for him. Narrowly missing out on some shots there before Canadian shuts him down. The final minute, though, Evil Geniuses yet again have top 4 control. Now, the main difference here is Mouse still have 3 defenders left alive, and they're going to be able to anchor at least somewhat.
Presumably they have ADSs available for them on site to try and prevent any projectiles that can go in, and Evil Genius is running a frag heavy in terms of frag grenades lineup. They've got 4 available for them. We've only seen 1 get used so far, at least on screen, so there could possibly be some more utility there for them. They've also got the Hibana just for pure fragging potential. X-Kairos is depleted, meaning that it will mostly just be solely the Bearing 9, as well as that Type 89 there for kills. But once you said, that vertical control is going to be so important, and it's going to continuously provide a lot of discomfort for the defenders as that entire floor is destructible, and the defenders will have to keep rotating so that the attackers can find them.
Last 20 seconds, Evil Geniuses pushing their way in through delivery, and there's no denial here. BC has just inched his way into the site, and nothing from Mouse can stop this. As he attempts to start the plant, Canadian covering from above. Neptunes will get NVK elsewhere entirely. Young will get vertical, though, in the main lobby before being refragged by Beastly. Above, though, Canadian making that vertical presence so known, and BC still alive inside of delivery. holds on to that diffuser, winning Evil Geniuses of the round.
And what happened there was they were able to clear out above and then use the buck to continuously push the defenders away from where they wanted to go. Now, for people that are not as well versed on how that vertical destruction or the verticality really plays in, yeah, you can throw out your skeleton key, you can throw out your sledgehammer depending on who you're playing as. Heck, you can even use Zofia with breaching charges, which is what we've seen a lot of teams been using recently, in order to open up strategic holes to where people might be situated. Or you can use that verticality to completely remove the ceiling above the defenders so they can't play there. What that allows you to do is you take site control without actually being on the site by pushing the defenders back. Evil Geniuses were able to shove all the defenders into the back of Kitchen and then just hold the angles. Now, they lost a couple because of some unfortunate gunfights from their players, but ultimately the strategy was sound and it paid off. Diffuser went down, Evil Geniuses close out the round. Really, no debate as to whether Mouse was going to be able to take that back.
So a big part of me, the way that hold didn't work out for Mouse for me is just they haven't been holding on to Penthouse at all. They have players in Projector and the hallway outside of Projector, and it seems like they're putting emphasis on that top floor. But if you can't hold on to Penthouse, then you can't hold on to Projector, and that's just how it works. And now, on that note, here we go. Penthouse Projector, the site to be defended from Mouse. So they're going to have to shore up the exact same issue that I just referenced in order to successfully hold this site, except for they have one less layer to do it with.
Here's the problem. If they're not holding Penthouse this time around, they're in pretty bad shape here. So, but that verticality we said goes both ways. What can you do? Well, that entire ceiling over top of Kitchen that's destructible also happens to be the floor of Penthouse. So you can put the buck underneath it this time and do the same thing just inverted.
Yeah, and on that note, why don't we have a pulse right now from Mouse? I mean, they've been so focused on vertical play so far, trying to hold downstairs from above, and now no pulse to hold upstairs from below. I mean, kind of an interesting mix-up from them. I'm sure they're going to have roamers, but they're mostly focused on the horizontal. It's just a little bit of a shift.
First round, you were a little bit critical of the fact that they had a bit too much invested in their roam game. I think that was accurate, and then it bit them. So what did they do? They got a little bit more conservative with their roam game the second time around. We're seeing that timeline continue, which is now where they have very few bodies that far off site. Vertical is positioned inside of Hookah at the moment. It looks like he might actually be the farthest off site of that entire team. And Hookah to Projector is not that far of a run.
Right. I mean, the horizontal roam inherently, because it's horizontal, you can always get back to site, is going to be a less of a distance roam, no matter where it is, really. But I still, you know, there's something to be said about a full roam versus a light roam, and they've taken a huge shift from that. Now, it's working out for them so far,
first pick.
as they get the first pick onto Necroc. So good job to them, at least. And that is who exactly? The Lion.
The Lion.
So big.
So the Lion will not roar this round, but what thing that really does worry me is as this round goes down, unless Mouse can possibly capitalize and get another kill, they don't have any presence on that bottom floor, as you said. Unless my eyes deceive me, all 5 of their operators are upstairs, and you've got a buck below. A buck below is a very scary predicament to find yourself in. Evil Genius is putting a lot of focus at the moment on Hookah, and that is Vertical, who could be very, very little time, or could have very, very little time left. But he'll wisely play that couch. He'll get very aggressive. Vertical, who's got a great shot, will get one. Canadian from below takes out Beastly. The Hibana comes in. BC trying to engage, and he'll win that. He'll lose 50 health in the process. You've traded an IQ and a Lion for a Vigil and a Jaeger. Great positioning for Mouse right now.
One thing to be said about the SMG-12 is that it really does have a long reload if you expend all of those bullets. Hyper inside of Aqua gets killed by NVK. So good control on that south balcony from Evil Geniuses.
Vandal is the only one left on site because, as you can see, just by that luggage doorway is where the smoke is playing. Mouse, I'm not quite certain why they would use Hyper that way. Why do you take the fight through the door into Aqua when you know that there's under a minute left and you're tied up in man count? And now Evil Geniuses have taken a scenario which was very, very dangerous and managed to do quite well. Neptunes will eliminate Canadian, though. You can see there's one body downstairs. That's Neptunes. He'll work his way into Courtyard. That'll set us up for NVK versus Vandal up top and BC versus Neptunes down below. You can see NVK will try to burn that ADS using those concussive blasts. A Toxic Babe will go down onto that 90 spot, but this could be very bad for the smoke. The Legion is the last one left on site, but BC will go down. Great kill from Vandal, and NVK in rough shape. Looks like he's going to try to run in and take an engagement. He's going to out-duel Vandal. He'll get downed and finished off. A bit of sloppy gun work from both of them, but Vandal will just simply wear NVK down. No ability to withstand, and Vandal saving the round for his team before dropping through the hatch. Good timing overall, as Neptunes was still struggling to get back to sight, and Mouse will take their first round.
And a very important first round, not allowing that 3-0 lead. The defense, as we said, can be a little bit hindered usually on this map, but as every single inch you get on that defense, every single round you get, puts you in a better position to win out. Now, the question is, running in my head right now is, what's going to happen when Mouse gets to attack? Because the way that they're defending is very aggressive. You know, even when they're not roaming vertically, they're roaming heavily on the horizontal. Right. You talked about it earlier. We had one anchor for a majority of that round for Mouse. The confusing thing is that Evil Geniuses, instead of just isolating the anchors, is choosing to confront them directly. Right. You know, it could have been throughout that entire round a simple take in through VIP. Maybe just go through the wall, get into guitar, push from the bathroom, your typical basic stuff. Because you could do that and isolate the roamers and you don't have to worry about them anymore. Especially considering, for whatever reason, there's no pulse. But that's not what we're seeing Evil Geniuses do. They're playing into Mouse's game with that last round. And it actually has been working out for them, though. I mean, the first 2 rounds, they did the same thing. So
you also can't underscore how important that first pick was for the smoke of Neptunes to get rid of the Lion. That would have pinned them down for at least 8 seconds of the round, providing the Lion made it to use both of those. And then the smoke, that's a very big gamble to take. A smoke peeking, likely against an ACOG, maybe not at the shortest of ranges. We didn't see where it happened. It could have been an engagement that happened on the main stairs. It also could have been through the window by luggage. I'm not sure, but that was a huge sigh of relief for Mouse, because Lion would have been a very influential operator to keep them in the site and be able to take control from below.
I want to say it was the window at the top of main lobby stairs. You know, that old spawn peak onto the front door spawn. But you know, that's just speculation.
Right.
Now, final site, or the next site we're going to see here from Mouse, we haven't seen Hookah Billiards just yet, so they're going to go down to the double bar. And I think Hookah Billiards is probably one of the least played sites on this map. I don't know statistically.
It has been, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it's not exactly a favorite map or a favorite site for this map.
With great coordination, it crumples very quickly, typically, whereas the double bars downstairs don't. But when we see the double bars get used downstairs, the 2 most pivotal operators that are often employed are Castle and Mira. Castle is available, but Mouse won't go with them again, and there's no Mira available either. So I'm very interested to see the way that Mouse does this. They've got the alibi possibly watching into the foyer downstairs. Could possibly keep them all alive. Was that a C4 that just got used?
That was an impact. You saw the notifier from Vandal down below, trying to hold that push into Hookah, support his teammates on the roam upstairs just a little bit longer.
And I mean, he deterred Canadian for just a second, but I mean, that's really it. Also, though, that MX Storm is going to be able to look through that hole to see a push go in. First Lion charge is going to go, and Vertical is going to be on the move as he works his way down Cool Vibe stairs. And keep in mind that because Alibi is on the board, the defenders will be hidden when getting detected. So you don't know who it could possibly be. But Beastly was there holding an angle. Why would you use your Legion in such a way? BC will take out Neptunes, and that's 2 easy kills. But great roam from Vertical, and he'll down BC with Diffuser inside of Office.
Wow, that is huge that the Diffuser has been down far away from the site. It's going to force Evil Geniuses to rotate their push and start going for the retake onto the south lobby. Definitely going to take a lot of time, though. Hyper on challenge the main stairs. Vandal from a crossfire will get Canadian. mousesports keeping this back in their favor.
And mousesports might not have a lot of utility available right now. Actually, next to none. They've just got a Vigil. All the Prismas are down from Alibi. Jaeger's gadgets are already down. So you've got tools still available for Evil Geniuses. They use their second EE1D. So the Lion will largely just be a fragging machine at this point. Depending on where they're standing with NVK's gadgetry usage, there's still some tools available. Speaking of that fragging machine, the Lion will pick up a kill. Vertical is down. They were able to find him as the Vigil was guarding the Diffuser. You can hear it gets picked up. Hyper in great position to greet somebody through that security doorway, waiting to see if anybody's going to walk on in. But you're going to have to monitor what Mouse is doing with their 2 last attackers. Oh no, Necrox just on his drone. That's Hyper able to finish him off, and Vandal grabs an NVK through the doorway. It's all up to Young. He'll toss a grenade in, waiting to try to draw out the Jaeger. A bout of irony as Jaeger almost dies to a grenade. Young in sight will have to go for the plant, but he'll take the frag instead. Vandal hears the IQ and he looks the wrong way. What do they call it? A Kansas City shuffle. It's when you look left and they go right. And Vandal gets the final kill this round. good performance over 2 rounds for him on defense, and he's managed to tie it all up.
Evil Geniuses looked just a little bit too disjointed in that round. They had a push coming from multiple angles. A lot on the south, a lot over by main lobby, but also coming from upstairs still, from the blue stairs specifically. And with a 3 versus 3, I mean a 3 versus 2 rather, you can spread yourself out a little bit because you have that man advantage, but it's ill-advised. You want to isolate and contain, and they just didn't commit themselves to that. They instead went for those individual frag plays. Now, Kitchen, the next defense from Mouse, and we did see a successful attack here from EG the last time this happened.
Twice even.
Twice even.
But because they've won on both Penthouse and the double bars, and they can't, this is their last defending site, are you going to go to Hookah or are you going to go to Kitchen? Because those are your only 2 options. So, obviously, as we mentioned, Hookah is a site that does not see quite the frequency that the other 3 do, even though some teams will favor that site. For the time being, it's going to go back down to Kitchen. Now, how do you play this differently if you're Mouse? First time you had too many roamers, you got pinched early. Second time, I mean, you had a pretty good comeback, but I mean, they were still able to take control of the above area and then keep you from rotating the site.
Okay, well, first of all, the roam upstairs is ineffectual because they don't have a Mira. If they had a Mira inside of a projector facing towards Penthouse, which is what makes that site so easy to defend typically, then yeah, they could really easily roam that top floor. It would probably help them out a ton. But they don't have that utility available to them. So they need to just give up on that potential. They need to, yes, roam, but I would say much different than they are doing right now. Clearly, Mouse is very much invested into the mentality of, okay, let's keep people, warm bodies, off the site. Let's keep attacking from the sides and the rear onto EG as they make their push. And that, yeah, it's been working. It's seen mixed results, as you could see from the 2-2 scoreline. But just pick your battles. And challenging onto Penthouse when you don't have a mirror window, it's hard, and it's not been working out.
So we'll see what changes they can make this time around. I do really like they brought this Castle. I know it might seem like I'm focusing a little too much on Castle, but this is a particular map where he shines more than many others.
Also talk about underrated operators in Pro League and just abroad.
He's an interesting operator because the casual viewer might not understand what Castle's job is. A lot of people will think, well, maybe it's to guard the site. Castle's job primarily is to funnel the attackers into a certain direction while making them either have to give up time or their utility to gain critical access. The first kill is going to go to mousesports. That's Vandal, who is having a great day. And like I said, his performance seemed to dip as the qualifiers went on, especially with Ying banned, but on defense, he's making his mark. BC off the board, and of course, the only hard breacher as well available for Evil Geniuses.
Yeah, Young will refrag though, vertical, at least eliminated, so that's an important kill for EG. Now, they don't have a whole lot of control. You can see that, again, EG is very spread out. They don't seem to have a particular idea on how they want to deal with these roamers, but they are still putting a lot of emphasis on just that. Hyper somehow missing the shot onto Canadian. He will survive that bout and continue on to VIP. As the EE1D forces these defenders to stand still, and VK is attempting to get control over L. And he has done, for the most part, just that.
He'll find Vandal and take him down, but Hyper gets one before being taken out by NVK, so Evil Geniuses will at least trade off Necrox. So long, but one half of the Brick Brain duo is gone. That'll leave just the 2 FBI operators in both the Pulse and the Castle left in a 3v2. Canadian has suffered some wounds, not mortal wounds by any stretch of the imagination. He still have 1 minute left, but he's a shot or 2 away from death.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you have these last 2 Mouse Sports defenders are on full HP, possibly with some explosives, could exploit the fact that Canadian is so low. No C4, no impact, so that's not actually going to happen.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Come down to the last 35 seconds, though. This is going to be the final round of the half. And Mouse Sports are holding out against this onslaught pretty well so far. They have a lot of off-site players, but you're going to expect EG to, well, not expect that. And Neptunes will get the edge on NVK, but miss the kill inexplicably. Meanwhile, Young will push in through delivery and get the plant. Canadian covers with a kill onto Beastly, and that's just Neptunes now in a 1v3. 2 lit attackers, but one he really should have gotten the kill on earlier. And as he crosses, he gets lit up himself. 1 bullet onto NVK to finish him off, but Young gets the final kill. Neptunes goes down, and the half goes to EG.
And the half goes to EG because of site rotation. Unfortunately for Mouse, they showed their prowess on both the Penthouse Theater site as well as the double bars, but Kitchen was their undoing because 3 rounds, but 3 very different strategies on how to defend Kitchen, none of them successful.
Twice. The only real repeat we saw from EG was that twice they just walked in through delivery and planted the diffuser, because what is Mouse doing? They're roaming. They're everywhere but the site.
It's very puzzling the way they've been playing that. You know, we saw Hyper playing an L upstairs, Hyper's home, as you want to call it, watching that little angle, and the Ella just showing that even though the high fire rate, that bullet hose of a Scorpion, the damage still kind of lacks where it needs to, and it looked like for the most part unable to control the horizontal recoil. It lit up a lot of what appears to be the hitbox of Buck, but it is actually just his armor pack. So I think, and if you're relatively new to Rainbow Six, the hitbox is not everything you can see. You can shoot a backpack. If you shoot Lion's backpack, doesn't do any damage to him because it's not part of his body. Crazy.
Yeah, it used to be, actually, if you go really far back in like the beginning of Siege, it used to be a lot of those extremities actually were hitboxes. You know, the helmets, they were a hitbox, the stuff like that. But these days, that's been fixed, that's been changed. Now the actual body is the only part of the hitbox.
Most egregiously was Blitz, his earmuffs. Blitz's earmuffs. Now say what you will against our favorite German shielded operator, but Blitz's earmuffs used to stick out, they still kind of do, but behind the shield itself, and the earmuffs consistently were headshots. So if you got a Blitz coming at you, you just shoot him in the earmuff and, oh, well, it's a headshot. Doesn't quite work that way in principle. Might deafen him in real life, but certainly, wouldn't.
It would hurt.
It would hurt a lot, but it would not be fatal. So we've switched sides. Evil Geniuses take 3 of Mouse's 5 rounds on defense, and now EG will have an opportunity. They'll go straight to Penthouse Theater, and here's what we were saying about Castle. You force attackers to either have to waste utility or time to try to get around a site, and wow, Canadian, what are you doing there? Hyper is the one who should be doing that. Canadian embracing his brick brainness and taking out good old Hyper, or as EG refers to him, Paul, as that is his name, able to take the first kill out. And that's the Buck. And the tyranny of a good Buck on this site cannot go understated. The grenade's gone after he was able to take out the castle barricade through the main door. And now Mouse is going to have to do a bit more work on destructibility, losing their chief soft destructor.
You know, I saw that kill feed and I was like, wait, that's the other way around, right? Hyper's the one going for the aggressive plays, but no, Canadian stepping up. And I think that's just, again, that's telling of the role swap that he's made. I mean, in the past, it also used to be BC who would play Buck, and he was so good at it, especially on Coastline. But now, Canadian's been doing great at that role.
I don't think I've ever seen Canadian on smoke before. At least not that at least not as of late. Vertical's gonna walk right into the main lobby. He's gonna take out Young. That was the castle sitting down behind the front desk over by security, and he's gonna find himself on a collision course with NVK, and that will be Vertical securing yet another kill. So the IQ able to just take all of this ground away from Evil Geniuses. We mentioned the roam game from Mouse. Hasn't really been that strong from EG right now either.
Yeah, and it's mostly down to Vertical and his great skill at picking them apart. But also worth noting, those drones from Mouse have been so efficient. Vertical has had full information on everything he's pushing so far, with marks and calls alike. So he's had some buttery smooth kills by virtue of support players. Now he's going to go for a nade deep into the A site, and he will down BC. Canadian positioning to pick up, but that's going to result in a double nade from Vertical. That's 4 for him in the round. Necroc's the final defender against Vertical, the ace from the IQ, and Mouse take the round in absolute domination.
Vertical, what a showing. Consistently one of the most unappreciated players in North America. Put some respect on that name. He has been so good over the last 2 seasons. Great to see that performance. What a grenade. Absolute incredible play. And it actually looked like what he'd done was it looked like he double bounced that frag grenade to take care of BC. Excellent play from him.
Yeah, the really puzzling thing for me, not to take away from Vert, but the really puzzling thing for me is, why is Canadian rotating onto his downed teammate when he knows there's going to be a follow-up nade? There's always a follow-up nade. Canadian? I mean, you know, it happens, though. It does happen. And props to Vert for a well-played round, and he really did deserve that ace. That was the type of ace that, yeah, okay, he had a lot of support from his teammates, but he made that happen, and good job to him. Also, good job to the rest of his team for droning out efficiently. Now, that's an equalization. We've got 3-3, and Mouse will take the first round of the half, so we still have a whole lot of match to play.
Yeah. So, I mean, this right now is being set up with that unpredictability factor, once again, of the system and the format that we're playing under. Evil Geniuses have looked very good on the rounds they've won, and the rounds that mousesports have won, they've looked good on too. So I think both teams can look at this scoreline and say to themselves, we haven't won a round we didn't deserve. We haven't lost a round we deserve to win. Right now, they've been very conclusive. The real question is going to be, I would imagine at some point, somebody's going to steal a round away from the other. When is that going to happen?
I really like this Evil Eye here from BC. This is actually really cool because remember we were talking about that control over the skylight and how it's ever present from the attackers onto the defenders? With that Evil Eye in position, in that place, you can actually, as a defender, tell yourself and your team whether or not you're capable of rotating through the hallway by just looking at the skylight. You have full information now, information that cannot be denied. So I really like that Evil Eye. You know, there's a couple other Valkyrie cams, like sometimes on the palm trees, could be useful for that same exact effect. But still, it's a little bit of ingenuity. And that's something that as Maestro gets on and on and on, people or we see him get played more and more and more, and the season goes on and on and on, rather. You're going to see more inventive places for those Evil Eyes to go because it really depends on how a lot of teams use them. And I mean, we haven't really seen teams been using the Evil Eye with its laser in mind. They've mostly just been, you know, rotatable, bulletproof cameras. That's really what it comes down to, is it's a bulletproof camera. You can put it in a position that, you know, even if it's something really common, like a easily accessible location where an Ash Charge or a Zofia Lifeline can hit it quickly, it's still useful because it's hard for the attackers sometimes to get the utility to the place to destroy the camera. Right. Now, all that said, NVK lit up on his roam. Evil Geniuses have been roaming somewhat, but not nearly as heavy as Mouse. And I think a big part of the EG roam mentality is wasting time, peeling off. And it's not going to be able to happen here for Young, as Hyper just bucks his way through the wall from the bathroom and gets that easy kill. Just a bit of mention about possible drone economy right there. It does look like they might have blown up a drone that was sitting by the castle barricade. Not crucial, but I mean, you don't want to be depriving all of your drones. Oh, NVK will get found out by Vandal. Great coordination. Gets droned. Knows he has to move because there's a lion charge coming, with Vandal there to greet him. Excellent coordination from Mouse to be able to pinch one of the roamers down. Also taking Young the castle out earlier on. And Mouse in very good position to strike this site with a lot of tools at their disposal. Of course, you didn't lose the buck of Hyper early. He situated that big window. You've still got the breaching charges on Vandal should he need to possibly take any horizontal pressure onto Evil Geniuses, but I would suspect most of that site has probably been reinforced. So you now have a position where, as we can see through the floor, vertical, oh, he's been so good. Necrox just waiting to die at this position. We'll leave BC on site as the Smoky Canadian tries to get back. Now we're looking at 35 seconds. You would say that that's going to give the defense an edge, but look at the man. I mean, just a 2 versus 5. EG have not been able to fight back very much at all in this round. Now BC's going to do the first of that. He will get vertical, a very important kill. Canadian also gets Neptunes, and he's down the diffuser. He has 3 gas canisters, and he's going to be able to delay this push quite a lot as an individual. But Beastly gets BC, Vandal gets Canadian, and a lockup from Mouse. They had the information, and they were able to get the refrags. What a play. This is really great to see the way that Mouse is flourishing with an adaptation to their strategy. We saw this from SK. And I know that if you didn't tune into the Paris Major qualifiers, I mean, it stands to reason a lot of those matches were not casted here on this channel. They were cast on a variety of community caster channels. So it's very easy for people to possibly not have actually seen all of that footage yet. They haven't gone back and watched the VODs. That's A-okay. That's why we keep referring to it. And also because I think it's important, because those are high-pressure matches against incredible teams, but not in a best-of-1 format, in a best-of-3 format. What we saw out of SK was, at least today, a lot of changes to the way that they play, the operators they use, where their pushes are coming from, the speed and hurry. We're seeing the same thing from Mouse. Mouse are playing much more aggressive on both sides of that field,
And they're right now able to take the advantage away from Evil Geniuses. In particular, Vandal, who turned in the worst performance, I believe, of his Paris Major Qualifiers run in the finals against Obey. I could be wrong, but that is to the best of my knowledge, where he didn't do as good on the scoreboard as well on the scoreboard as usual. He's having a great day today. Both he and Vertical are eating Evil Geniuses alive. Of course, Vertical buoyed by the fact that he had that ace to help boost his stats up. But both of them making the adaptations they need to. And for mousesports, it's nice to see Vandal thriving on another role when we saw how efficient he was against Rogue as a Ying, and now being as effective as a Zofia against Evil Geniuses.
So, defense, Kitchen. We've seen 2 attempts from the Penthouse and 2 fails of the Penthouse defense from Evil Geniuses so far. And they've finally made a change. Now, I like this change. I'm glad they made it. Question is, Kitchen, of all sites. Right. You know, we talked about this earlier, I still hold that I think Kitchen is one of the more Mira window-focused sites out there. There's some options available to you if you don't have the Mira, but it's not as accessible. I like that vault there from BC. You'd actually think it's easier to get that Mira or that Evil Eye down, but it's kind of complicated.
Yes.
Because you can't just vault onto the wall, as far as I know.
I don't think so. I think he'd vault over the wall, which is why you saw he had to go onto the armrest of that couch.
Yeah, it's so weird, you know, compared to a game where you could just jump up and you'd figure it'd be easier to get on it.
Physics in video games are always interesting, especially when you see like a doorway that's like, you know, ankle height and you can't get over it. It's like when in real life you're like, yes, I can actually get over this. Please let me get over it.
It can be confusing, but here you go, Evil Geniuses, nice setup. And I think that Evil Eye has a similar mentality behind it, whereby you can give information on open area as well as many other things. And here you can even deny the plant because those walls are opened up to the open area location. That Evil Eye can actually deny pardon me, the aggression in through the bar. Now I'm thinking it's double bar. I'm completely out of it right now. Thank you, Marcin.
It's the eyesight.
It's the eyesight. We're gonna keep blaming that. That's my excuse to go to forever.
One day you'll get glasses. One day we will invent a technology where you can see better, Michael. One day that will be available.
I'll get it eventually, yeah.
Now, we talk about vertical control, and here we go. First EE1D, and this is great because that Maestro might be gone in just a second. One will be given away. Hyper, a great shot through the wall. Canadian does take out Vertical, but he pays for it. At least they get the hottest hand on Mouse down. Vertical, who has been probably the most impactful player in this game, will sit out the rest of this round. Now Beastly will go through some shots through the open window into the kitchen, but cannot connect anything. You can see that the Maestro BC will peel off. That's a smart idea for Evil Geniuses to keep themselves in a position where they're fighting in a 4v4. Beastly takes some damage as well. Currently sits just under half HP. There's only 60 seconds left. We are nearing the point where Mouse is going to have to go. They're going to dump a bunch of utility into the site. You can hear the castle of Young. The comical screams as he gets hit by an explosive. Hyper will toss down a grenade. It actually looks like he might have damaged himself. In the meantime, Hyper a second kill on NVK. NVK's having a bit of a rough day, but the Vigil is gone off the board. And Vandal, what a shot! Young taken out, playing by that pantry rack. And Hyper drops, but BC is there. It's still a 2v3. Neptune's running in, trying to outduel the ACOG. Necrox is there. EG is actually doing a great job holding off. Vandal, all the while, is taking damage from that Legion Mine. Necrox punishes him, and last one left is Beastly, who will sprint in. He downs BC. This is very winnable. Necrox has a tiny bit of health, but he's got some gas grenades available to him. He just uses the last one, and Beastly will work his way in. He'll go for a pre-fire. Does he see the smoke? Who will win the fight? Peels around the doorway. Necrox looking with the SMG-11, and Necrox will win it, but they trade. It's a draw? How long has it been since we've seen one of these?
It's been, I want to say it's been upwards of around a year. I don't remember the last time I saw one. A draw of all things, and that, as you know, is going to add a point to both teams, which now puts Mouse on match point. So it's the last round now because of that. We just saw effectively 2 points added to the scoreboard, and actually, yeah, I mean that's really interesting to see. We don't often see that.
Absolutely incredible that we see a draw, but that's a win for Mouse. As you pointed out, it puts them on match point. So that's rough. If I'm Evil Geniuses, that's a loss. That's a huge loss for you.
Yeah.
Mousesports being, you know, not necessarily gifted, because that was a, you know, both the bullets hit at the same time.
Yeah.
It's not really a gift, but this is do or die for Evil Geniuses, who are only have one victory on the season. It was the very first week. mousesports as a team have been clawing their way up the standings. The sky is the limit for them. They've been playing a lot better. They came only 3 maps away from playing in Paris at the Major. I don't believe Mouse will be in DreamHack Valencia, so from my understanding, that means that they will not be able to secure that spot and therefore will not be able to play at Paris. Their trip to Paris is done, but...
Well, they're certainly not flying to DreamHack Valencia right now.
So, with Mouse right now, Vertical and Vandal topping that scoreboard. A good effort from the rest of the team. Evil Geniuses are going to need some magic to happen here. Technically, they have not won a round on defense. And I say this because they did technically, I guess, I spoke too soon. Technically, they won the round on defense because it was a draw. They both won the round.
Both sides won, yeah.
Technically, they have not won an uncontested round on defense. And this goes back to our saying that defense doesn't really win Coastline. So EG needed to run it up on attack in order to feel a lot better about this defensive hold. Now they are on match point.
And they kind of did. I mean, they got 3 rounds on attack, right? But it wasn't enough of an advantage to give them such an edge that they could just stomp all over the next half.
Yeah.
And we've seen some pretty incredible things from Mouse as well. A lot of it comes down to individual performance. Like Hyper with those shots in that last round, absolutely crazy.
So, what is about to happen over the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds? This has been a wild game between these teams. The ace from Vertical, the puzzling play of Canadian to get so aggressive on Hyper, that double grenade kill from Vert, now a draw.
Yeah, and we could see this.
And NVK will vanish from all of time and space, literally watching front row as he completely disappears, vaporized, and we'll wait to hear if there's going to be a call as to whether or not there is a rehost from the teams. That'll be an admin-style decision.
So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. But so in the meantime,
we asked, what are we going to see? Well, thank you, NVK.
Yeah, he certainly showed us. But this actually could, and I want to keep you guys invested here because it's true that this could be the actual round. It's possible we won't have a rehost. We were a minute in, or just about a minute in. And I'm hearing now officially, yeah, the admin call is...
For the time being, there will be no rehost unless that call changes. We'll keep you updated, but that could be potentially a heartbreaker for Evil Geniuses. Not ideal to lose somebody. Your Jaeger is down, so I mean, hopefully he was able to get the ADSs down. In the meantime, keep you safe from possible grenade spam and projectile spam. mousesports have been running 4 grenades quite reliably on attack with the IQ and Buck combo.
Yeah. Now, we're a minute in when NVK disconnected, and now we're at the final minute. And nothing has happened since then. Mouse has inched their way in ever so slightly towards double bar. They have a good amount of control, but they don't have enough to start pushing their way upstairs. Interesting that they're putting so much emphasis on this downstairs push. They do have the Buck from Hyper, and that's going to be a big part of the emphasis, I'm sure. As the nades start coming out, they're focused on Projector. We also have the X factor of an EG Roamer all the way over on Blue Bar, so there could be a late flank at any point during this Mouse attack.
And you can see both those grenades will be used from the Buck. Unable to get the skeleton key to much use underneath as one of the Lion gadgets from Beastly will be used in the process. But it's crunch time for Mouse, and even more important for Evil Geniuses, who, due to poor misfortune, have lost one of their members. Hyper, working his way onto the cool vibe stairs, will miss most of his shots, and here come Mouse. They'll circle in and look towards their push, but they still got a lot of ground to make up. One frag grenade will get primed from Vertical. NVK comes back into the fray, but it's a trade-off as Vandal eliminates Necrox, and Canadian jumps in to take out Hyper. The time right now favors the defenders. Canadian will be holding it off. Young jumps in. Canadian with another. What a big round, but Vertical in a 1v1 will just simply lose out on time, and time alone. A great opportunity for the IQ to be able to put this one away, but we're going to have a match draw, and that'll be it. So, neither team will win, neither team will lose. Canadian, what an outstanding performance from him in those dying seconds to put his team onto a draw, and that will be that. One of the strangest matches that we have seen in the past couple months will come to a very intriguing conclusion. Both teams walking away with 1 point.
I'd accuse it of being the strangest outright. I mean,